From time to time, I will be thinking about what if, I actually married a girl, what kind of life it's gonna be.
I could be totally wrong, but I feel like this was more relevant to older generations above us. Deceptive husbands is what he called it. 유조結婚とは.
Okay,
Okay.
should we start?
Hi, Tokyo Tops.
So recently, I was scrolling on my Night Monster, right?
Yeah.
The gay app. I saw this very weird ads. It says, I'm a straight guy, but I marry a woman. Something like that.
You mean a gay guy?
Oh, sorry.
I think straight people do sometimes marry straight women.
Gay なのに、女と結婚する. So the thing is called 友情結婚. To be very honest, I've thought about it because sometimes I'm very disappointed of like the gay life. It's very superficial. It's very hard to find a partner. So, and I've the parental pressure from my family as well, right? Like they told me maybe you're not that popular amongst gay people.
These are the conversations you have with your mom.
Yeah, and she's like, maybe you should try to find a girl and be happy and just be normal kind of conversation. So from time to time, I will be thinking about what if I actually married a girl and what kind of life it's gonna be. I'm gonna do a very brief translation. It says the friendship marriage is there's no sex, it's sexless. It's more like finding people with the same mindset, with like this friendship, and you make a marriage out of it. Instead of tricking someone that like not telling that people that you're not gay. What do you say that in English? Like you trick someone into marriage?
Deceit. So I actually did some research and that's one of the things that comes up in it. Deceptive husbands is what he called it.
It even says that a lot of people do it in Japan is not because of visa or money. It's just one of kind of like the new era, like one of the new way to explore life possibility.
That's actually a really interesting section of that because I do think in other parts of the world a lot of people do have like 90 Day Fiancé and stuff. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Oh, you'd love that show. It's always a recurring fear among Americans who marry someone who's not American. It's like, oh, they're just here for the visa and stuff like that. Quite interesting how they specifically say here it has nothing to do with visa. And it really highlights the difference in culture. Getting back to what you were saying about getting the pressure from society and parents, that also is a highlight of the cultural differences that we have. So it says that gay men are using this service, but does it talk about the women who use the service?
Okay, this website actually provides like a variety of stats of what happened, like what's their clientele and what is their success rates, right? So it says people who enroll in the service have a very high success rate at 44.3% of being able to get married.
Couples get the matches actually go to get married
into marriage. Yeah, the ratio between the male and the female, 54% of female versus 46% of males.
So more women, interesting.
More women. The average age for the male members are around 36 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, and for women it's 32, so 4 years younger than the male. 平均年収比率, which means like your annual income ratio, where the
average,
yeah. You can see right here, like men makes more money than women in general. Now, most important, sexuality, right? So for men, 80% are gay. Another thing maybe I want to point out is the asexual are 9%.
I also see bisexual in there. That is interesting to me because, so what happens when you find a woman in this sort of setup, are you not allowed to sort of push the romantic elements if you feel it because this is specifically a friendship?
I mean, there are only 3%. So
3%. 3% of 5 have a 500, no, 10, 1,100. Yeah. So that's like 30 people.
Okay, for the woman, the story is absolutely different. For lesbian, there are only 2%. And 47 are asexual. The other 47% are non-sexual. So isn't this data very shocking to you? Because I would think maybe it's the same thing for lesbian people, but it's actually just straight girls, but they're not very sexually active.
Or interested.
Interested, yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite gay men in Japan researchers that I used to read a lot is Mark McClelland. When you brought this up as a topic, I remembered I had a book about him a while ago, and I was like, I think he talked about this. And it's a little bit older, like 20 years old, so the research is a bit dated, but I went back and read it, and a lot of the things you're talking about matches what he was saying. First of all, for any of you who want to look into this, it's called Male Homosexuality and Modern Japan. Apparently, this whole idea of like gay men being straight women's best friends started in the 90s. There was like a 90s boom of like gay movies. It's called the gay boom.
In Japan?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so that's when you're talking about the lesbians. That also matches. Apparently lesbians, they sometimes marry gay men, but in this whole structure, even in his research, it was straight women dating
gay men.
Yeah, not lesbians. You kind of touched upon the reasons for this. Romantic love and sex is considered separate to marriage, right? As we all know.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for people who are like non-sexual, asexual, because they're looking at marriage as a business contract, right? Also, I was saying that given that the importance of a good sex life within marriage is less stressed in Japan, so it's not important, this adds support to the idea that gay men do not necessarily understand themselves as being disqualified solely because of their same-sex preference. So gay men as well, they're like, oh, well, marriage is not about sex. I can still join in a marriage. I almost feel like that's kind of what you feel like.
I go back and forth.
Okay. So then it goes on and says another reason why this structure works in Japan is because there's widespread tolerance of extramarital affairs by husbands. So women accept it normally. And so in
Being
the research,
cheated, right?
Yeah, so they're like, what's the difference? If my gay husband, this is more honest, right? My gay husband goes out and has sex. What's the difference between me being married and my husband going out and finding sex elsewhere?
Yeah.
And then it talked a little bit about what you were saying before as well, about how in general, in Japan, marriage as an institution is a huge pressure and a massive thing in Japanese society. And if you don't get married, you're not normal.
What I heard is that people who are not married are hard to get promoted.
Yes, so that's exactly what he said in his thing.
Yeah.
He said, so a lot of men, especially gay men, they get married in order so they can appear normal so that then they're dedicated to the company more and they have a family to support. And so then the company invests back into them. Yeah. If you're not married, you're kind of like a loose cannon almost.
Yeah.
And then the pressure from the parents in order to fit in. They were talking a lot about how like it's not just about two people, it's about like bringing families together, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a cultural difference from Western culture for sure. And then he went in to talk about ideas of why straight women choose this. Do you have any guesses?
Is it because gay people are more communicative, or like they have more in common compared to straight guys? Like it's.
Yeah. They said the gay boom resulted in this idea that gay men are slightly effeminate.
Yeah.
And so they would, align on various topics and have a lot of like shared interests and stuff.
Well, like understand girls' hearts.
Yes,
kind of
exactly,
like
all that stuff. And so the research goes in to be like, that's not necessarily true, but that's the stereotype that came out for that. So women sort of were open to that idea. And then apparently went on to say that men, regardless of whether this is true or not, the image is that they're just slobs and they can't communicate and they just go to work and they just cheat, and like it was like such a negative view of men. They don't do housework. So all these expectations, whereas like you get a gay guy, he'll help you do the dishes. Do you have another guess?
So is it gay people are more maybe can help with like raising children? Like I don't know, is it right?
So this one was talking about how over the years women have they've changed a lot, right? And they're starting to like hold jobs different, like for longer and this and that, and they're exploring and they're traveling and stuff like that. Apparently though, once they get married, they're trapped back into this rigid structure and expectation that they have to be home, they have to be the mother now, they have to do the dishes and this and that. Once they marry a gay guy or whatever, you'd go do whatever you want, I go do whatever I want.
So
freedom. There's a lot of freedom there.
Okay, should we go into more stats? Actually, I think the next one is quite interesting as well. How they want like their living situation to be. So the guys, 90% of them want to like dokyo, which is like they want to live together. And 10% is like hanashiai shidai. So like, let's talk about it, And the similar for women as well. So I think most of the people who enroll in the services, they want to achieve like a normal family, like a happy ending picture that have a family together, like they want to live together.
But I bet they're still sleeping in separate rooms.
Or separate beds, it can be like, very Japanese.
Sure.
Okay, do you guys know Japanese people don't sleep on the same bed. A lot of them.
A lot of them.
Like married couples.
Tell us how much it is.
How much you would pay for this?
Well, hold on. First of all, so this is a type of omiai, in a way. Those are expensive. But then I feel like this is like a premium one within that because they're catering specifically to a minority.
So guess how much?
So what do? They introduce you?
Okay, let's look at the service no内容.
Yeah.
First, you have a free counseling session.
Go.
Kind of just like ask you, what do you want? Like, what are you looking for? Why are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. Then the second step will be 初回面談. So kind of like a first interview.
Okay.
I don't understand that. Maybe just like more in depth of like ask more details of what you want. And number 3 is gonna be ご紹介.
Okay.
Well, obviously they're gonna introduce you to someone. Maybe showing you some profiles, being like, oh, this is a girl like
Sim
the
Auntie.
age, and this,
Yeah.
and then after
yeah,
passing
yeah.
that stage, it's like お見合いの申し込み.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I like this
like it,
profile. I want to meet this girl.
So after that, you're left to yourself.
And,
Like, I wonder if they're supporting you somewhere after the first couple
they have
dates.
more. So after you both agree to meet each other, they will help you to set up the schedule and like tell you about the potential partner's name and prep you up for like some chuichiko. Maybe be like, oh, don't wear this sweater. It's ugly or something like that. Within 24 hours, they're gonna send you an email to tell you if the person wants to go to the next step or not to move forward. That's so interviewee.
It's super interviewee. I mean, it's a contract.
And after that, they will help you guide you through what is the marriage steps or procedure. So they like the first time you get married, you don't even know where you should go. They probably have some support for you, like, oh, you have to prepare like ABCD documents and go to 시役所, go to the city hall and register and kind of give you some like.
But it seems like they do support you all the way up to marriage, right?
They do.
Right? Okay, I think this is 1 or 2 million yen.
So 基本料金, like 入会費 is 11万円. But they also have a discount for people who think in their 20s. So, I mean, you're not qualified for that. No. So if you're in your 20s, then they charge you half of the price. And if you're in your 30s, also get charged less, 30% off at 77,000 yen. Okay. Then you have to pay a monthly fee of
how long
that's a
you're
subscription.
In it
yeah.
Until you can get.
So for monthly fee, that's 8,800 yen.
Oh, that's pretty cheap.
And also for omiyai so every time you actually
want to get
it's set up like a omiyai moshikomi janai. So every time you do that, it's 5,500 yen for every single meeting. And after you successfully went through everything and got married, you pay a final price of 33万.
Why? I would just leave like we got married, bye.
But you're close. But for example, if you do a year of konkatsu, I think it's around 100万.
No, because if you're doing, it's 8,000, 9,000-ish a month, right? So like it'll be
like 50万.
50万, I think.
50万, 60万.
Yeah, for like a year doing this with success at the end.
Yeah, which is not too crazy.
So you gonna do it?
Before we end the video, I want to ask you, is this something that you will partake or
absolutely not?
Well, how do you feel about this service, like the existence of this service?
It's a cultural difference. So I actually think that this is cool as a service, and I think it's great that it allows people who feel, if they feel trapped by society, if they feel pressured by their parents and stuff like that to get married. It's nicer than being in a marriage where you got married but you're not really into your significant other, you're not having sex, you're cheating on the side. Like, it seems a lot more like honest. We're not gonna have sex, we're not really interested in each other, let's do our own thing, get married for, you know,
friendship,
and be friends and stuff like that. So like that all makes sense to me, but that's not the life I want for myself. The one that I grew up in, the culture that I grew up, their version is more romantic, and I don't really want kids either.
Yeah.
So I think that that's another thing too. Like, I think for people like you who really want kids, I think that it makes sense to me why this would be considered and why this service exists.
Do you think this kind of service can may exist in the West as well? Where do you think like it's people will bash it? Because it definitely has its own audience in places like China and Japan.
Yeah.
Where like East Asian countries, I
Yeah.
feel. In the West, do you think that it's not even gonna be there? Like,
I could be totally wrong, but I feel like this was more relevant to older generations above us. I don't really think there's an audience anymore for people who want to meet societal expectations or stuff like that. And I do think that there is a big push for, still in our culture, that regardless of whether this is true or not after you get married, the idea is still that you should have a love and sex relationship in, Western ideas of marriage. So
before you guys trying to criticize this service, I actually want to talk about something really positive about it.
Okay.
It has this educational aspect, tells you what is being gay and what is being a non-sexual, what does it mean to be asexual, and it allows you to do a test to see if this service works for you. Like, should you?
Did you do the test?
I haven't. Like, I feel like we should. Can I do it very quickly?
Let's do it.
Oh,
That's interesting.
So my result is like I should do a normal straight konkatsu.
Yeah. You should marry a straight woman and have kids the traditional way.
Because it says like I answer what questions like, oh, if you want to make kids, like, are you guys
How
gonna
you
do
do
it?
it?
And I say I think I can do it
but-
instead of like I don't think I can do it. So I chose that option.
Okay, I'm gonna do it.
You gonna do it too?
I'm gonna do it. Why did you even take this test if you don't want to get married? That's what it says.
No, it says like 結婚しないことは当たり前の世の中になっています。無理に婚活しなくてもいいから。
Yeah, but that also says 結婚したくないあなたがなぜこの診断をされましたか
Let us know what you think about this kind of services. Do you think it's gonna be even allowed to exist in the West world?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about the Japanese expectation for marriage and for sexuality? And let us know everything what you think in the comment section.
See you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye.